Now, the mayor of Kabul says he still believes in the democratic principles that fit Afghanistan, even after the Taliban overran the government. The mayor says he's been allowed to keep his job. Mayor Mohammad Dawood Sultanzai joins me now from Skype from the capital. Thank you so much, Mayor Sultanzai, for joining us. I guess the question here is, are you still the mayor of Kabul? We heard reports that there was a parallel mayor put in place by the Taliban.
No, actually, he's not a parallel mayor. He's in charge of a commission that oversees all mayors in Afghanistan. And he's working from the municipality with me there, but he's in charge of a commission. And I'm still, as of this afternoon, when I left my office, I was still the mayor.
Okay, so this is where it becomes interesting, because I think you can give us a little bit of an idea of the leadership structure right now. You were appointed by Ashraf Ghani. He fled the country. I know that you've said before that you were called to go back to work to continue your service. Who are you taking orders from now? Are you now working essentially for the Taliban?
Actually, I'm working for the people of Kabul. We're providing service. There's no government. And one of my duties is to serve the people. And when everybody fled the country, and those pundits, especially those Afghans who call themselves pundits, on sitting 10,000 miles away and shedding crocodile tears and saying that we betrayed our principles and democratic principles. Had I left Kabul like others did, and had I left my duty, what would have that been called? I think that would have been treason. So I'm serving the people of Kabul. I'm providing the services that they badly need. And a token of that problem is being seen every day at the airport. And had the government of Kabul and the municipality of Kabul had collapsed, what would have happened to 6 million people? One should ask that question too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And look, you are sitting in the economic powerhouse of the country, so it's a vital city. You have run for president before. You understand the politics in the country quite extensively, I'm sure. But could you give us an understanding? Are you taking orders from any specific person or someone within the Taliban? You're saying you're serving the people of Afghanistan right now. Are you just going on along with what you had put in place prior to the Taliban takeover? Or do you have a new set of orders and mandate that you have to adhere to?
The orders that are being issued by the Taliban leadership, it's not being ordered by a government that is formed yet. No government has been formed. Most of those orders are security oriented. And what I'm doing is providing service to the people of this city. So we're doing what we were doing before. And as it is dictated by the needs of the people, there are no orders that are specifically directed towards the municipality from the Taliban, because there's no government yet. And when that is formed, then we will see what happens. I'm not sure what kind of a government. I hope that it's an inclusive government. I hope the Taliban are talking to people like us who believe in democratic principles, not to people who are warlords and drug lords and grabbers, land grabbers, who are trying to resuscitate themselves, and they ran away and now they want to come back.
So could you give me an idea of the conversations with Taliban officials? What are they speaking to you about, and what are you relaying back to them?
To be very honest and very accurate, they took over Kabul. They have very little experience in running a government. They have no expertise in running a government. They are in charge. They're in power, but they need to have a functioning government that it has experts and administrative and economic and technical know-how that will run various branches of the government. And we have to wait and see what kind of people they will put in the government. That will be the litmus test. And what I did in staying in Kabul, I have thrown the ball in their court to tell them that, look, we are here. And if you want an inclusive government, you better prove it by bringing the right people, not the same warlords and turncoats who want to come back and loot more of the looted pie that they already have looted.
In terms of serving the people of Afghanistan and the people in Kabul, We've heard from numerous people that the banks have been closed, they haven't been able to draw money, and this has obviously put people in a very sort of difficult situation. Give me an update on when the banks are going to be opening up and whether you're worried about a run on the banks and what that would mean for financial stability.
There are many factors that the banks are slow to open. Naturally, it's very easy to shut them down, but it takes a while to open them back because the central bank assets are frozen abroad by the United States and by the world, by other institutions. Therefore, the connection of the local banks to the central bank and the cash flow and the chain that exists has to be revamped and it has to be revitalized before the banks can open totally. Some banks open very slowly, and many exchanges are open right now, but the full functioning banks are not there yet.
So where does this leave average people that have run out of money, essentially? Are you worried about them?
Yes, very much so. This is a very, very important issue. Economy is the biggest problem that the new government has to deal with. Our revenues, our relations with the international community, our loans, our aid money, the contributions that were made into the Afghan fund that was for reconstruction of Afghanistan. These are all the issues that we have to grapple with, and we have to be a government that has to understand those things and has to abide by international norms so you can tap into those resources again.
You say that you want an inclusive government, and you say that you stayed behind. Ashraf Ghani said he fled because he feared he was going to be hanged. Does this mean you want to be part of this new government? Are you thinking about running for president again? Do you think the Taliban is going to want to take a democratic approach here for Afghanistan? Because you say you still believe in the democratic process. The Taliban has been very, interesting to watch in terms of their messaging and how they want to handle the future. What do you think that's going to look like?
You see, I am giving them the benefit of the doubt right now. Every few decades, the people of Afghanistan, after every turmoil, have run away from this country, and we have created a drain brain. I was one of them after the Soviet invasion, and I saw what happened to this country. I don't want to repeat the same mistake in creating a drain brain to give the extremists an excuse that there's nobody else but them to run the country. Therefore, this is a double-edged sword. While people are afraid of their lives and run away from their duties and responsibilities, others are here to fulfill their responsibilities. And of course, the formation of the new government, me for running for president, these are all future things that the behavior of the Taliban, the formation of a new government, the creation of the new constitution, and all the other things are hanging. And we have to see what happens and then make the announcement of what we will be able to do.
Okay, so 31st of August, that's the deadline. In the meantime, ISIS-K threat, the US says, is very real, that they've potentially threatened to, bomb and attack crowds around the airport. You're currently taking down the concrete walls and structures, the T-walls, so to speak, that were essentially used for protection. ISIS-K has targeted Kabul in the past. Are you worried about this threat? Do you think that this is a possibility when the foreign forces actually finally leave the country?
Well, actually, the threat is always there in a country that has been at war for 40 years. There are many elements that can threaten the very, very, very strenuous situation that already we are in. But at the same time, we have to create law and order. We have to create the semblance of normalcy. I was removing these obstacles and these T-walls even before the Taliban came power, and now we have speeded up this thing because they also want these things to be removed, and they have to be able to provide security so that people can live a normal life. When the war is over, then the normal life has to start, and these things are part of normal life: open streets, open avenues, open city, so people can breathe and the economy can breathe. And everything will have to come back to normal. We have to do this for the people. We owe it to the people because several generations of these people have been living in T-walls and behind concrete walls, and the government has been operating in a very, very undesirable situation for the past few decades.
Mayor Sultanzai, thank you very much for that update and the insight you've given us. Much appreciated. Great to have you on the show.